Okay, so now we're going to come in and do some paint work. So using the paints that come with the kit, there's just 4 paints. If we look at the callouts, what we can see, the underside is number 64, and then we have a 2-tone camouflage of number 145 and 27. And the 33 is the black, so that's going to be the propeller and so on, and we'll do that last. So as I always do with these types of models, I'm going to start with the underside. Obviously the brush that comes with this is not the best at laying down large amounts of paint, so I do recommend you go out and get a flat brush, and it will just make it a little bit easier. In the old days I would have painted it with something like this. These are my dad's old Humbrol enamel paints. These have been knocking around for many years. Now when I first came back to the hobby, I was using these, and now I've turned almost completely to acrylics and lacquers, and very rarely use these on my models at all. Although I do have a good selection of RLM colours, which are German colours, which are really good and nice accurate colours, but I just find they take too long to dry, and the versatility of acrylic paints is so much better. Normally I would probably thin it. Now the key with this is not laying down too much paint, and making sure you spread it out. Now, as you can see, you may be able to see this, okay, you might be able to see that the paint is starting to bubble up a little bit where it doesn't really want to stick. Now I'm going to try something. I'm just going to rub that off. It's the beauty of acrylic paint. Just rub that off for a minute, and I'm just going to try cleaning the plastic. This is just acetone that you can get from most chemists or from a supermarket for cleaning your nails. I'm just going to give that a clean just to see if it makes much difference. That painting. So coming in on the wing, just going to spread it out nicely. Now it appears that actually that's made a bit of a difference. Now I don't know whether that's because it's changed the surface of the plastic a little bit, or whether it has actually cleaned off any sort of grease or lubricant that was left on the plastic from the moulding process. But that's going on quite nicely, and as you can see, I'm going on with quite a light coat. I don't intend to cover this in just one in my first attempt. I'm going to do 2 or 3 and maybe even 4 coats, so that I layer the paint and it doesn't become too messy. So I'm just going to go over all the wheels and everything in here. What you want to avoid is any pooling or any large amounts of paint, because when they dry it will just be messy. You want to try to even out your paintwork as much as possible. So the key is just don't load your brush up. I always try to unload my brush onto something, a palette or a piece of paper, or even onto my hands sometimes, just to make sure there's just not too much paint. You just want to come in and check your leading and trailing edges of everything, just to see if you've got any paint build up. Now the beauty of acrylics is it dries very quickly, and so you can handle it within a few minutes, depending on how thick the paint is. Okay, so that's the first coat done. We're going to come in and give it another coat. Just going to give this a hairdryer. Hairdryer is really useful for speeding up this paintwork. A good tip: buy your girlfriend or your mum or your wife a new hairdryer for Christmas, and you can use our old one for your modelling den. Considering these aren't a paint that I particularly like to use, I'm relatively impressed with how this paint's going down onto the model. Obviously I'd get a much nicer surface if I was airbrushing it. I'm trying to get the best that I can in the time that I've got, but I'm treating this as though this is my first model, so I'm not going to too much effort and trying to get a beautiful finish. I'm just trying to get the best one I can in the time and with the tools that I've got. You could mix a little bit of water with this if you wanted it just to be a bit thinner, and so you could go with less coats, but it looks like I'm going to get away with 2 coats on this. But again, the key is not too thick, and spread your paint out. Take your time. Don't try to do it in just one go. I see many children holding their brush and pushing too hard. You don't need to push too hard on the brush. You need to hold it. I hold mine like a pencil, and I just using the tips and not pushing too hard, just trying to let the brush do most of the work, and all I'm doing is just guiding where I want the bristles to go, rather than just pushing it down, and just making sure there's always enough paint on the brush, but not too much that it's going to just pull up and make a mess. And in some cases, this streaky effect that you can see, I could put another coat on to get rid of that. But in some cases, the real aircraft would have got dirty, it would have had streaks and grime on it, and so we're going to leave that in anyway, so I think that looks okay. And so now we're just going to come in and finish off on the sides of the aircraft, sort of feathering in where the camouflage is going to go. Now, the instructions show that the camouflage on the top wing, that there's some of some of this grey paint should come onto the top as well. So we're just gonna run a little bit of this paint over the top of the wing as well. Okay, so let's just leave that to dry for a minute. Okay, what I'm doing now, I'm just coming over with a slightly watered down mix of this base paint, and just coming over. So I've added a little bit of water to it just to thin it out, and I'm just coming over just to take away any of the imperfections and just give it a slightly better coverage. And I'm just going to So there we have the first coat, so that's the underside, and now we're going to come in and have a go at the top half. Now the top half is 2 colours, so it's 145, and it's 27. 27 being the darker colour. Now, when painting camouflage, I like to do the lighter one first and then come over and do with the dark. So let's get this one open, which is the same as the interior colour. Make sure it's all nice and mixed, and then we're going to come in and paint this. So now I'm going to, obviously what I've got here, I'm going to try to follow where possible the camouflage markings. It might be an idea just to paint the whole thing first of all. I'm going to give it one coat all over, even over where this darker colour should be. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to come in with this, with the darker camouflage. I've just watered it down a little bit, and I'm going to come in and using the box, I'm just going to draw in where the camouflage should go. Right, so now I've marked out the camouflage, I'm going to come in with the other grey again and just finish off the one side. I'm going to get a tiny bit of sponge. Tiny bit of sponge. Okay, I'm going to take this grey paint, and for doing the mottling on the tail, I'm not going to try to get it too accurate. I'm just going to come in just get a bit more paint on the brush. So that's the mottling of the tail done. Now we're just going to come in and tidy it all up. That camouflage to me just doesn't look right. That bottom half colour just is too dark. That should be a lot lighter, and these greys aren't quite right either. The dark one's not too bad, but we're just going to leave it at that. I'm going to come now in with the lighter colour again and tidy this line up. Just going to do a bit of tidying up, and then we're going to come in and I'm going to do the black of here, and I'm just going to finish this off, and then I'll come in and do the decals. See you in a bit.